Holy cow! There were a ton of updates to the status quo in this episode. A deeper understanding of Diamond Tiara's character with a first look at her home life. Applebloom, Sweetie Belle, and Scootaloo finally accepting their role in helping others discover their true purposes, which leads into a brand new chapter in their lives together. This was essentially the magical mystery cure for the Cutie Mark Crusaders. After all, how many other episodes have so much focus on using music to advance the plot? How many other episodes have caused so much change to the status quo? How many other episodes show a montage of clips that emphasize a character's growth throughout the seasons? And much like Magical Mystery Cure, there are some parts that go by so fast it makes me wish they had split this story into multiple episodes. But if they had to fit so many events into only 22 minutes, I have to admit they pulled it off almost as perfectly as they possibly could. First off, let's talk about Diamond Tiara. She has been the biggest obstacle to the CMC from even before the CMC came into being. At practically every turn, Diamond Tiara is the one reason the CMC as a group have managed to grow. And yet, because of a lot of her one-note behavior, many fans in the community have been waiting to see more depth to her character. More of a motivation to her bratty behavior other than just because she's a bully. And sure enough, we finally get to see the one pony who seems more responsible than anything else. I have to admit, I was surprised to finally see that Diamond Tiara has a mother. I'd always theorized that it was a lack of having a mother, along with a father who constantly spoils his daughter, that had led up to this bullying behavior. Instead, we discover that Diamond Tiara has been taught from day one to always be a winner, always be the center of attention. Do not associate with any pony who isn't considered upper class. And a revelation that Diamond Tiara doesn't really know who she's supposed to be, wishing she was some pony else. This is the sort of backstory that helps the audience better identify with her character by leaps and bounds. Granted, going from a submissive child in front of an overbearing mother to actually standing up for herself while her parent finally starts giving in was a very quick change. And what happened then? Well, in Ponyville they say that Diamond Tiara's heart grew 3 sizes that day. And like I said, the transition would have felt a lot better if we saw more of a natural progression over the course of a few episodes. But given that this had to happen in the span of 22 minutes, I can understand why this character growth had to happen so suddenly. And, to my surprise, Diamond Tiara wasn't meant to be the main focus of this episode, but the setup for one of the most requested events in the show's history. The CMC finally receiving their cutie marks. A lot of us were speculating that the CMC were moving towards a life of helping others discover their true purposes. And a lot of us were speculating that Diamond Tiara had more of a reason to her bullying and that the CMC would one day help her overcome it. But just how many of us actually considered that these two elements would come together for the moment when the CMC finally received their cutie marks? Thinking back on this episode now, I can't believe I never even guessed at that possibility. And when you look at the series as a whole, this had been very subtly set up right from the start. Diamond Tiara has always been pushing the CMC to care about having a cutie mark, always pointing out their flaws, which encouraged the CMC to stand together. Their whole group got started because of Diamond Tiara's taunting. And in the showstoppers, we might have thought the writers were hinting at what talents the CMC were going to specialize in someday, and if they had never come together as a group, these specific talents might actually have become their cutie marks. But then we saw their destinies change. Together, their cutie marks still include an apple, a musical note, and a lightning bolt, but share a symbol of always helping others discover their true selves. And the final struggle they had to overcome together was helping Diamond Tiara, the one character who constantly berated them for not knowing what their true purpose in life is, who also happened to never really know that truth in her own life. This is brilliant. This is the perfect closing chapter to their cutie mark journey. And it becomes all the more genius when you look back and realize that this ending had been building up through the entire series. Couple that with some adorable moments with the main six and the long-awaited confirmation that the apple's parents passed on some time ago. Seriously, writers, there is an enormous amount of potential for a future story based on this concept alone. Please don't just leave it at that. And we have a CMC episode that far exceeds expectations and starts a brand new chapter in life for Applebloom, Sweetie Belle, and Scootaloo. I admit that some of the songs felt a little bland, and some of the transitions happened a little too quickly, again much like Magical Mystery Cure, but the good elements far outweigh any nitpicks I have, and I'm still smiling even as I write the script for today's episode. My deepest appreciation to Amy Keating-Rogers and the DHX team for giving us such a wonderful conclusion to the CMC's story arc. I eagerly await seeing what lies ahead for their characters. Now I would love to hear from each of you. Given all their previous appearances in the show, how do you feel about this conclusion to the CMC's Cutie Mark story? Do you think Diamond Tiara's inclusion was a worthwhile element? Do you feel any differently about either the CMC or Diamond Tiara now that they're entering a new chapter in their lives? Are you still smiling whenever you think back to this episode? I would like to hear your thoughts on Crusaders of the Lost Mark. And here's to 5 years of MLP that has continued to exceed our expectations. Seriously, airing this episode exactly 5 years to the day from the first season opener is yet another stroke of genius. I am Dr. Wolf, and I look forward to hearing from you.